Welcome back to one of my favorite racetracks in the entire world, and what I personally believe is the best road course in the United States of America. Road Atlanta, Michelin Raceway here for the 27th running of Petit Le Mans. Now, what's so great about this event is this is one event that, I grew up with the Indianapolis 500. I grew up with IndyCar racing, but I really adopted sports car racing as a love of mine. And Petit Le Mans really is one of those events that made me fall in love with the sport of sports car racing. I came here for the first time 13 years ago, 2011, the great Intercontinental Le Mans Cup year, where there was a 60-plus car entry, Audi, Peugeot, Aston Martin, an amazing field of cars. And much the same this year, an amazing field of cars, over 50 strong IMSA, looking like an incredibly strong series going into the future of motorsports. I'm here at Motul Petit Le Mans thanks to a great new partner with the channel, Hyundai. So, Hyundai doesn't race yet in the WeatherTech Sportscar Championship, though while it's not announced exactly where the brand will be racing, I guess we'll call them the In the Family brand of Genesis will be driving somewhere in an LMDH in 2026. But Hyundai participates in the Michelin Pilot Challenge Series in the TCR category. They race tomorrow on NBC and Peacock at 12:45 p.m. And I said to myself, okay, Hyundai's doing this great thing, bringing me out to one of my favorite races. But with an open wheel audience, what do I do to explain a touring car to an IndyCar audience? Well, I enlisted the help of Mark Wilkins, one of Hyundai's drivers here this weekend, driver of the number 98 for Brian Herta Autosport. And Mark helped me look around the Hyundai Elantra N and helped me learn about touring car racing. It's a pretty good feature.
I'm Mark Wilkins, driver of the number 98 Hyundai Elantra N TCR for Brian Herta Autosport. I'm your 2019 Series champion and also a Rolex 24-hour winner, and this year, Nürburgring 24-hour winner in the Elantra N TCR. So we're going to do a quick walkthrough of our race car. Arguably the most successful TCR car of its time. So the engine is a 2-liter turbo. It's actually not massively different than a stock production car engine that you'd find in the new Elantra N road car. So that's pretty exciting. I mean, we obviously pushed the car to its absolute limit, and you can see like different airbox and obviously the race treatment required for the stresses that we go through over the course of an event. You can see the front grille is a lot different. Obviously targeting airflow and making sure we get the air we need and the cooling that we need. That's one thing this car does very, very well. We do very well sort of in the draft and staying close and racy with the other cars in our class. So talking about the front of the car, obviously here, damping wise, we work with Sachs really closely to optimize our damping. So I think that's one of our strong suits with this car. Quite honestly, over the years, we've been developing, curb compliance, grip, power down grip, all of that really relates to the quality of our shock and damper program. So that relationship is really important, and I feel has been a big contributor to our success in the last few years. So just super exciting. And beyond that, obviously, we've got the whole brake system, cooling ducts, and we've really honed in and fine-tuned that package since we've been running this car now for, I guess, 4 or 5 years, and then Veloster before that, and i30N before that. So we've had a lot of years to really hone in and develop these components so that it's really plug and play. We just go out and we can dial it in a few short laps. So TCR, I've been racing TCR cars for a long time now, but before that I was racing a lot of prototypes and open wheel cars. I grew up racing open wheel cars. So the transition to sort of a front drive platform, obviously you're working the front tires, the weight is more forward centered. So a lot of it is just managing the tire. It's managing, the kind of, the thermal efficiencies, how hot you can get the tire, how much you can push it without over pushing it. And so really that big thing is because the balance of the car is a little bit different, you have to drive it in a way that's going to give you sort of that best overall average time over a run, as opposed to like trying to just grind it on the tire really hard to maximize that sort of one lap pace. So it takes a little bit of different thinking. Like if you're qualifying, obviously you're going for that outright lap time, but you're going to use that tire more. And in the race, it's a lot about feeling the tire, knowing where the limit is, and kind of riding that fine line throughout a race to get to the end first. In the car, obviously, we still have the clutch pedal that gets us going. It's a paddle shift, a sequential box. We've got some driver cooling here. Obviously, all our pertinent like engine data, anything that we would need, lap time information, is up on the dash, shift lights and all of that. And then on the steering wheel, we've got a few different things, typical radio communication, ABS adjustment, for the different maps we have, and a little bit on the steering. We can actually change the weight of the steering a little bit, and pit speed and all that. So everything happens on the wheel. The wheel is really important. It looks maybe more complex than it is. And then if we move right of the wheel and down, we've got our sort of center control panel, which has our proportioning valve for the brakes. We can adjust that, and also our brake bias knob, so we can fine tune balance a little bit with the brakes in the race. So beyond that, we've got a little bit of cooling. We've got our headlights, our flashes, our engine start stop. And then our toggle switch to be able to control some of the functions through the dash. The Elantra N road car is obviously a 4-door, and we're racing the Elantra N TCR, so yes, it's a 4-door. We can open that up, and the seats aren't very comfortable. I mean, I'm just kidding. So we got the fuel cell here. It's fairly, obviously very clean. But you have to remember, this is a chassis that is road car based, that's modified by Hyundai Motorsport to have the TCR treatment that allows us to push it to its limit throughout this IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge Championship. The rear wing obviously is adjustable, so we can add or take away rear wing as necessary. We tend to run a little bit less rear wing, but it's just a good way to add stability to the rear. And the car actually has a lot of front grip in the front diffuser, so just to keep everything balanced, but it's just a tuning tool for us. So much like an open wheel car, it's not maybe as much of a game changer as it would be an open wheel or say like a prototype, but it's definitely a tuning tool that we're always thinking about. And if the car is a little bit tight, we can take a little rear wing out, try to get some rotation. Of course, we always want some good entry rotation to get the car pointed so that we can take a little load off the front tire and make the front tire work a little bit less. So if we can swing that back end around, get the car pointed, less steering wheel angle in it, the front tire is going to last longer. And so those are some of those tricks that having adjustability of the rear wing allows us to achieve that optimal balance. So why would you pick to choose an IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge TCR race to watch? Well, it's just the closest of competition, honestly. This platform allows us to race really close, really tight. There's always good battles, there's always some contact, and that's really it. I mean, it's just always exciting. I don't think there's ever a dull race, honestly. And so in the car, it's super fun, but for the outside viewer looking on and seeing what we're doing, at tracks like this, like Road Atlanta, which is like super fast and flowy, we can bounce the car off curves, and we're going to end up in the side of each other, and at the end of the day, it's just great racing.
So we're looking forward to seeing the Hyundai team racing tomorrow. That's not the only bit of content I got to do with Hyundai here this weekend. In fact, I just got off of an interview with the great Robert Wickens, who's another one of their very successful drivers here in the Hyundai TCR program here at Road Atlanta. And Robert answered a question, a positive answer to a question that I think is going to make a lot of headlines. I'm going to tease that out, and you guys are going to have to think about it, dream about what that is, and watch the video when it does indeed go out. But a great conversation with Robert Wickens, who's one of the great guys in racing. Got to spend some time with him this weekend, and he's unbelievable. It's an amazing story. So of course the headline event here at Motul Petit Le Mans is the WeatherTech Sportscar Championship. And before we start talking about today, there was a State of the Series address with John Doonan as well as NBC Sports Lee Diffie today. And there wasn't a lot of information that hadn't been long rumored or that we didn't already know. Things such as the fact that Aston Martin will be bringing their Valkyrie into the top class next year. Some surprises: LMP2 gains Pratt & Miller Motorsports of Corvette fame, which I thought was pretty fun. And there's some notable omissions, at least right now in terms of GTD Pro. Pretty surprising to not see any Ferrari representation at the moment, whether that be Risi Competizione or Oni or any other team. But John Doonan mentioned that 11 manufacturers will be in GT in IMSA next year, which is, I suppose, a record, but it seems like everything's a record these days in IMSA. But really exciting future, I think, for this series. Lamborghini as well as the Proton Porsche in the top class will be endurance only, although I think that's only Detroit and Road America that aren't currently endurance races in IMSA. I guess Long Beach too. So what, 3 out of the 8 or 9 races that the GTP cars do, they won't be at. But I think as long as you have all the hitters at the endurance races, that's what you're looking for. Speaking of a hit endurance race, GTP Championship, at least overall, maybe not so much in the Endurance Cup, seems like it will go to Penske Porsche Motorsports. I mean, it could change in qualifying tomorrow, but you never know. Some new things to look for, Cadillac Racing, some interesting notes there. The car isn't yellow anymore for Chip Ganassi Racing. It's a magenta or a pink. I guess they're calling it pink. Pink Cadillacs are always classy and classic, and it looks pretty good. But it's the last run for Chip Ganassi Racing, at least for the very near foreseeable future in prototype racing. It's also Scott Dixon's 50th sports car race, and it might be his last for some time. So Ganassi Racing, as well as Scott Dixon, looking to go out on top. Dragon Speed, which raced in GTD, their return to IMSA at Indianapolis, has now moved up to GTD Pro for Petit Le Mans. So add 2 Ferraris to the GTD Pro ranks, at least for this particular round of the championship. But there's going to be a lot more stories throughout the weekend to talk about, to bring up, to think about, and especially looking towards Petit Le Mans. Can BMW back up that 1-2, the fabulous 1-2 finish that they had at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway? Can anyone beat Acura? They've won the last 2 events, but of course it was Meyer-Shank Racing. They're not here. They will be next year, but it's Andretti that's taking the burden for Acura's last race with Andretti before they move on to Meyer-Shank Racing again. There's a lot of storylines, a lot of farewells, and a lot of new things on the horizon. It's going to be a lot of fun to continue to cover Petit Le Mans. Once again, thanks to Hyundai. I hope you enjoyed that segment, and we'll see you in the next video.